Let me connect this to something we've been doing at SC for a while now. 10 years ago, I wrote a play called Race, Rap, and Redemption that we put on in Boulevard Auditorium. And the call of the question for the night, when we think about the relationship between art and social justice, the call of the question for the night for the, roughly 1,200 students who were assembled was, should we pour liquor for Tukey? Stanley Tukey Williams had just been put to death by Arnold Schwarzenegger. And so the call of the question was, should we express ritualistic solidarity with a cold-blooded killer who co-founded the Crips? Right? And that's a tough sell to a tough audience. And in my closing argument for the damned, what I employed was art, because I knew that only art would allow me to make a closing argument to this audience of 1,200 gathered students that would move them in such a way that they could feel some sympathetic identification with a cold-blooded killer who, by the way, was black. A black man and the stereotypes we have about depraved hearts and how that works out in the death penalty cases and in the profiling cases, et cetera. There's even less sympathy for black criminals among many Americans, right? So this is a tough sell to a tough audience. In the course of the night, though, I had Lula Washington Dance Company do an Alvin Ailey style dance to Tupac's Brenda's Got a Baby, as well as Saul Williams doing some of his poetry, Lula Maida DeValier, Lupe Fiasco, Ice Cube was the final live act of the evening. And the song he led with, and the song he left with is very relevant to today. It was a 1988 song from his NWA days, in which starts with something like this. Fuck the police coming straight from the underground. A young nigga got it bad because I'm brown and not the other color, so police think they have the authority to kill a minority. Right? That's an 88 song that is prophesying the 92 riots. By the end of that night, you had 1,200 students, nearly all 1,200, standing up with their lighters in the air in solidarity with Stanley Tukey Williams. That's the power of art, right? You only get there through those artistic presentations that invited the audience to adopt a different narrative perspective than they would normally adopt when it comes to criminals. Because the typical perspective that was adopted when it came to criminals back then as now is they're morally condemnable, and I'm going to use the language of a comedian who kicked his career off with this, they're morally condemnable niggas. Chris Rock, one of his most famous routines, walks back and forth in front of a mostly black audience and says, it's like a civil war going on in black America and there's two sides. There's black people and there's niggas, and niggas have got to go. I love black people, but I hate niggas. Boy, I wish they'd let me join the Ku Klux Klan. Shit, I do a drive-by from here to Brooklyn. Right, that was a political invitation that, in the form of a punchline and a joke, for the audience to distinguish between us and them, and his core definition of a nigger was a black criminal. So between us law-abiding blacks and those black criminals, to niggerize them, to otherize them, right? And so that's when I started reaching out to so-called gangster rap, in which you had people like Pac, Nas, Cube, Ho for that matter, who were adopting the so-called nigga, at least narrative, and some of them were saying, I'm that black criminal that you're calling a nigga. Now let me give you my narrative, from my narrative perspective. Let me penetrate pop culture with the so-called nigga perspective and invite some kind of sympathetic identification from you to me, right? And they powerfully were able to do that sort of thing. So that's why I've been going with art in some of my justice discussions. That's what we're going to get into now with Leila. I'll just say one more quick thing about art as disruption, because I first used art as disruption, that N-word, from Cube, when I had to deliver a talk at the American Association of Law Schools in 1999. And I'd just gone to Terminal Island in San Pedro and seen all these cell blocks chock full of black bodies. And that upset me enough that when I went then to the American Association of Law Schools annual meeting, I said, you know, they used to say, I know you're here to hear me talk about social cognition and the law and the intersection of empirical science, and I'm here to talk about what they used to say about the words of the prophets being written on the subway walls and tenement halls. Now they're coming out of boom boxes and we're not listening to them, right? They're anticipating the 92 riots. They were anticipating the 92 riots. They're saying things like, and this was my disruptive intervention in an academic setting. I went through a whole 16 bars. I heard payback's a motherfucking nigga. That's why I'm tired of getting treated like a goddamn stepchild. Fuck a punk because I ain't him. You got to deal with the 9-double-M. The day is coming that you all hate. Just think if niggas decide to retaliate. They try to keep me from running up. I never tell you to get down. It's all about coming up. So what they do, go and ban the AK. My shit wasn't registered any fucking way. So you better duck away, run and hide out when I'm rolling real slow with the lights out, because I'm about to fuck up the program shooting out the window of a drop-top Broham. And while I'm shooting, let's see who'll drop, the police, the media, suckers at one pop, and motherfuckers that say they too black. Put them overseas, they'll be begging to come back. They say keep them off gangs and drugs. You want to sweep a nigga like me up under the rug, kicking shit called street knowledge. Why more niggas in the pen than in college? Because of that line, I must be your cellmate. That's from the nigga you love to hate. That's the music they were dismissing. They were dismissing that. And continue to. So let's listen to the narratives that these great artists bring. And Leila Steinberg and I does my seminar with me. We go up to San Quentin. She's just fabulous, and she's been doing this work a long time, so I'm going to give it over to her.
Thank you, Jody. You guys didn't know he could rap, did you? Next time we have workshop, we might have to have Jody get up. Hi, I'm Leila. Thank you for having me. Quickly, I was actually made in LA. I have a Mexican immigrant mother. My family are Turkish, Mexicans, and Polish, and I have black children. I started in South Central and ended up on the beach in Malibu. My father was the youngest public defender in the criminal courts Central, where he was getting locked up as a child. He understood the law well, and he ended up working in it. So I was a child in LA with a public defender turned private practice criminal defense attorney in Los Angeles. And I saw two worlds. I lived in those two worlds, so a world of poverty and a world of privilege. Very young, I saw all my father's clients were black and brown. White kids got private attorneys, and I began to ask questions. People don't want to answer those questions. I was a child during the Watts riots, so I'm older. But I remember the Watts riots, and I hurt from my friends. I hurt for everyone that didn't look like me. I'm still hurting. I'm a mother and a grandmother of 4, and I'm broken, and I want us to heal. And what I know is that one artist can change the world. I've seen it over and over. And I had incredible mentors. I traveled. I was the only non-African in an all-Nigerian band when I was very young. I got to see culture and what it is to take art and prayer. And art is not an elective. It's an essential. It's an academic. It is how we tell the truth, because our whole stories have been lies once reported. And so few control everything that we march, but then we have to have sustainable answers for change. We have to understand what the work is. And so in my search as a mother who wanted to make a difference to my confused children, and I'm identity challenged, so I surely pass that on, I found that if we could have a pathway to emotional and financial literacy, we could begin to have conversations and be honest. And the one thing, after many years of work, I was invited in 1998 to South Africa because I had done so much work in apartheid. And I saw that in South Africa, I went with an attitude and judgment and my ideas around white and black issues, and they were so much further than we were. They just ended apartheid, and they were already able to tell the truth about injustice and about what was going on. Fauna, get ready. So with that, I'm an educator, and I do develop young artists to take their voices and be world leaders, to understand their power. And I was too young when I met Tupac. I didn't discover him, he discovered me, and we worked together. I was a young artist, and he said, "You'd be amazing at business." I said, "I don't like business. I fail math every time." "I don't think so." And he said, "No, you have it. I'll teach you." And so the movie's coming. They have a woman playing me who's British with blue eyes, who is in her 30s, and she's like the white woman who helps the young black man. That's not the story, though I appreciate that I'm in the story, because we erase people all the time, and I was already so uncomfortable being perceived as the white woman who saved the young black man that I really retreated and I hid. And so now I owe it to Tupac to say that young man mentored me. He helped me understand my value and my worth, and he taught me how to be a businesswoman in an all-male, predominantly white world. And white men did not like me back then because I was with a black man who I grew up with, and so I became alienated. And Tupac said, "Steinberg is gonna help us." And I was like, I waited to get married to change my name, and my husband said, "Oh no, you will keep your name, and we have work to do." So here I am, and these amazing artists that are my team.
Hey, hi guys. Hey, my name's Elise. I'm a spoken word poet. This piece is circulating around my experiences being, my different identities being black in America, being a black woman in America, being a mixed person in America, different experiences like that, and it's really close to my heart. So if you guys like it, I like reactions. So if you feel me, let me know. Allow me to indulge your mind for just a moment. Recollecting back on this time for just a moment, speak on words never spoken, walk in shoes never broken, do your research quick and fast, walk through your past and let it soak in like a sponge. I remember being young in 3rd grade, I read books, I hated math, but art was my thing. I drew a self-portrait. Filled it with colors, blended better than Carlos, would put Van Gogh to shame, made Picasso, yo, bravo. From my skin tone, I used the darkest color in the box. Forgot for a moment that I was being watched like a fox. My instructor races over and she starts this talk. "Why'd you color yourself like that? You don't look like that. Do it over maybe with that color, baby. You're not that black. You should be proud of what you look like, girl. You're like hot fire. Don't you know your future is brighter because your complexion is lighter?" And I started to fight her. Yeah, I started to fight her, but then I realized there are millions out there that think just like her. Allow me to indulge your mind for just a moment. Recollecting back on this time for just a moment, being a poet allows for free talk, being an artist allows for free thought. Unlike the pictures that I paint, my struggle cannot be bought, just like the riot in Watts. This movement cannot be stopped. You want me to walk like you, talk like you, be obedient and think thoughts like you, but in reality, you think I can't see that you want to walk like me, talk like me. But you can't go off like me because my wordplay is lethal. I'm not your equal. Don't make me Ringo your star or pull up Paul McCartney and become the last Beatle, as in be all. I'll let you free fall to my feet. I'll break your ankles and call that shit basketball. Allow me to indulge your mind for just a moment. They say you black girls are so crazy, y'all so rude to stay in the office and make too many babies. You only want us when we come in a Mercedes, when you know that's not the case. See, they're quick to call us crazy when we confront them on their shit and their memory gets hazy, but when the shit hits the fan, they come crawling back like babies, like we ain't magicians that's grown from birth, like we ain't queens who ain't found their worth, and they like to ask why we got hearts made of brass. We'll let that Cosby, every Cosby in the Huxtable mass. See, allow me to indulge your mind for just a moment. And please don't get me started on this government shit. The lies they tell are about as lethal as the truth that I spit. They put enough of us in power so we think we can make it, but it's all makeshift. They snatched our crowns, stripped our language, and left the standard they're naked. This shit ain't new. These fucks know exactly what they do. They know exactly what to say to make you jump on cue. They know exactly what to say to make me boil like stew. So I'll fight them and I'll scream till I'm black and blue, screaming fuck you, fuck them, fuck all y'all niggas, not y'all. I load my pistol, cock back, and pull all y'all triggers out. Fake it till I make it, spit out about 6 figures. That's just spare change in the pockets of you government officials. See, allow me to indulge your mind for just a moment. I've been known to go off at the drop of a dime, and to be honest, I don't know what to do with this line. I'm not sure if this is a rap or just a poem that rhymes, but I just hope it meets the topic of retrospective in time. And that's it.
My name is Shyla. This is a poem. To the person that told me race doesn't matter because we're all just different shades of brown. Yesterday, I watched a 19-year-old boy die on YouTube. I watched the boy get shot in the back by the police. The video was nearly 3 minutes long. The boy squirmed the entire time. I have a fear of stepping on worms. This is called scolisophobia. I do not know if I'm more afraid of stepping on them or of them stepping on me. Either way, I'm afraid. The boy's blood was red. It looked like wet paint. On average, it takes paint 3 days to dry. When placed in a T-shaped enclosure, earthworms can be taught how to turn left or right. When it rains, they come to the surface to escape from drowning, and the oxygen in their skin snatches from hydrogen bonds. I do not know if they're more afraid of getting stepped on by me or drowning themselves. Either way, they are afraid of dying. This is called necrophobia. Yesterday, I read about a 19-year-old body getting shot in the back. Not the same body, a different one. On average, your blood is blue until it comes into contact with oxygen. And earthworms do not come to the surface because they are drowning. Earthworms come to the surface because they confuse the vibration from rainfall with predator. When shot in the back, you can only pray that your blood stays blue. You can only hang like a wet paint sign. I can imagine that when a gun is pointed at you, the world begins to look a lot like a T-shaped enclosure that you can only turn left or right in. The boy's arms were cuffed together. The boy's legs were a riot. The boy's eyes must have seen a falling cave. Yesterday, I read about a 19-year-old girl getting shot in the back. Not the same girl, a different one. I wondered if the worms mistook her blood for rainfall. I wondered if the shooter mistook her body for prey. Earthworms do not have eyes, but they can sense light. The shooter must have had eyes that could only see color. Your blood isn't actually blue. It just appears to be when viewed through the skin because of light refraction. And I guess knowing this is like knowing the difference between seeing in light and seeing in color. But on average, it only takes reading the headline to know which shade of brown the body is not. I watched a person die on the internet. Over 1 million views. 6,000 blue thumbs sprouting like worms coming upward from Earth.